It's the Traumedy Podcast. Trauma plus comedy equals Traumedy. This week on Traumedy.
Now I can see I went from a very oppressive, physically abusive household as a child into a very oppressive, physically, mentally, financially, and emotionally abusive marriage as a child.
You're listening to Traumedy, the podcast that helps you take your pain and play with it. I'm Nancy Norton. I am a former nurse, comedian, and keynote speaker about the power of humor, why we need it, how it helps us.
Bring the power of humor to your next event with award-winning comedian Nancy Norton. Nancy got out of healthcare for the same reason a lot of people get into it, to save lives. Message Nancy at nancynorton.tv. The Traumedy Podcast is sponsored by Crybaby Badass. You have to feel it to heal it. You are a Crybaby Badass luminary. See your light in the mirror. Do you have a trauma? Hey, you listening, do you have a Traumedy story to share? If so, send Nancy a message at nancynorton.tv.
I cannot not do Traumedy because I need these conversations. I hope by listening in, you get a little something from them as well. I really am learning from every guest some coping skills or some inspiration and always something funny every single time. And this is a mental health podcast. So keep breathing. Know you're not alone. If you want to find a comedy show or to connect with me, go to my website, nancynorton.tv. Everything is there. This week, I had the pleasure of meeting and interviewing somebody I met at a comedy show. Again, I love my job. I love it. And this week, it was a group of lawyers who are moms. The Llamas. Yeah. And they were the best audience, and they were so fun. And then a couple of days after the show, they invited me out to go karaokeing. Is that a verb? Karaokeing. We went karaokeing. What a fun group. Just a delight. So I'm so appreciative, and especially appreciative of my guest who was so gracious to come on the podcast. I love interacting with people. I love getting to know them. And I like what I'm doing in my comedy these days is a lot of traumedy. So people relate and they're like, I have a story. I tell them about traumedy. I'm so grateful when people are willing to be vulnerable like this guest. And this episode deals with, you know what's weird is nobody's saying the R word. You know, they say grape, child grape, and they say SA. I don't understand how this all works and why people are speaking in code, but somehow I feel like I'm supposed to honor that for the algorithms, or what is it? Why are people doing that? Can somebody explain it to me? Why we can't say the words anymore? Is it because it's triggering? Is it less triggering when you say grape or SA? Anyway, this episode deals with that and also a terrific, empowering story. So well worth the listen. And if you're going through any kind of narcissistic abuse, this is another great hero's journey. Enjoy this episode, and I will see you on the other side. Welcome to Traumedy. My guest this week, I just met yesterday at a lawyer event, a comedy show at Comic Sense in Boulder, Colorado. She is an attorney. She is a mama, and she is a llama. Amy Hips, everybody. Welcome, Amy Hips. Yay!
Thank you, Nancy. Thanks for having me and for being my new friend.
Yes, we get each other on several levels, it turns out.
Yeah.
I love this about my job, that I get to not only entertain, but I get to drop in and share certain material that really is traumedy. Like, I want to help people get rid of some of the trauma in their body environment. And I want to acknowledge that we have a mascot in the room, little Mushu. He's in a crate, and he's not quite sure why. So he's going to pant and whimper here and there. We'll see if he settles down. He's new to our house, so he's still learning. We're still learning. Anyway, if you hear Mushu, that's why. So thank you for coming over. Thank you for just coming up to me afterwards saying, hey, I related to some of that material. I have a story. because I was sharing about sociopath abuse, narcissist abuse. Thank you for being willing to say, hey, I relate to some of what you said. And before we talk about our commonalities, so was this your first time to Boulder?
This is my first time in Colorado.
Oh, welcome.
First time in Boulder, and I am blown away. I love it.
Doesn't have a good vibe here.
Amazing vibe. Just the openness and beauty and scenery and the people. Just I'm blown away.
I'm so glad you like it. And you live in Tennessee, right?
Yep, I live in Middle Tennessee, and it's a beautiful state, but it's different. Yeah. The Smokies are very different from the Rockies.
Yeah, but there's still a lot of beauty there.
Oh yeah,
and the
definitely.
Streams and the lakes and the trails and everything else. Did you grow up in Tennessee?
I did not. I grew up all over the eastern part of the country.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, do you want to say any more about your law practice?
I am not practicing with clients.
Okay.
So I actually work for a global infotech company as a consultant, a reference attorney consultant. It's an amazing group. I am so in love with my team and the people I get, the attorneys that I work with. Everybody that I work with is a barred attorney, a licensed attorney. And we are just some of the brightest, most lovely people that I could ask to work for or work with.
That's wonderful. What's a reference attorney? What is that?
Well, for us, like there's research librarians that usually work for big firms. And what we do is the company I work for has a lot of legal research products like online that we support, and we support them by providing live phone service or chat service to help people, lawyers mainly, use the products that we have and do legal research across many different products.
Oh, I'm slowly catching on. So you're a platform that is a resource for lawyers to get information. You're the human component that's between them and your reference library.
And it's all online. It's all digital.
It's all digital.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we're the human element that assists our customers to make the most out of the products that we have.
That's interesting. I'm thinking about AI and stuff. And how is that changing your job? Do you have any feeling of like, is AI going to replace me, or able to access so much information at once? Or does AI have a role in your position? I know this is a side note. I was just curious. I'm a lifelong learner, so I like hearing about stuff.
So right now, we are at the cutting edge of AI technology in the legal technology field. Oh. And it is blowing up. It's changing everything.
So fast, too, exponentially.
So, just blink. And we are integrating it into all our products, rebuilding from the ground up our products so that they are even more accessible, more efficient, using AI technology and large language model agents to assist lawyers in their practice, research, drafting, everything. And so not only are we expert researchers, but now we are also expert legal technology AI users.
Wow. Yeah, you have. Yeah, it's gonna keep you on your toes, right? You're just gonna have to keep expanding exponentially along with AI. I am so sorry that Mushu, it's his first time trying to do this. All right. So amazing. All right, let's go to last night. So I'm sharing, my joke, which is based in reality, but it's made cartoony, that I've been through 2 divorces because I have a type. And the truth is, my first divorce, my ex-husband was not what I would call a sociopath. It's just, whatever. It was my second divorce, which was in quotes, because at that time it was from a woman. So women, we could not have lesbian marriage here in Colorado at that time in 2007. So it was this drawn out, and my joke is very light, and do that whole thing about the traumabond.com. If you want to meet a hot sociopath, jump on my dating app. And, I do the whole sing-along with the Pina Colada song, and then I lose my house. And I make it light because it's like, and it's just a trailer, so it didn't hurt that bad. But I think when you meet someone else, you're like, I do that material just because I know there are people in the audience that have been through something like this, where things were not fair and in fact, cruel. Mm-hmm. And I just want to help remove some of that not just vicarious, but the direct trauma that you may have experienced. Yeah. And that was so nice of you to be open, to come up to me and say, yeah.
It was a moment of bravery, but I've been through so many hard things. This is not hard to share.
Wow.
And I got to keep the trailer for a moment. Yes. And all the kids.
Yeah, because you have 8 kids.
I have 8 children.
And because you were sharing that you got married very young.
Yes.
And you were sort of indoctrinated in, was it like an arranged marriage or something?
It was not an arranged marriage. Well, not of my arrangement, but there is some background. Like, I was the only daughter of a teenage mom who then got married. And then I had 3 steps siblings and a stepfather. They were not welcoming, not kind, not accepting. And we ended up moving a lot in my young life between like 2.5 to 15 when I was married in North Carolina. So all over the states. And I found out, so I had my first high school boyfriend. And we started dating, and the couple months in, I was date raped. And my family was getting ready to move from North Carolina to Georgia, and we had a shotgun wedding. So,
so this guy that you were on a date with, and who sexually assaulted you, mm-hmm. and then you ended up marrying him?
I ended up marrying because I was pregnant.
And that was just like, that was a no-brainer kind of like,
yeah.
You
got pregnant, you had sex, you got pregnant, you got married. That is the only way in our very, very conservative Christian Baptist church that you could fix that.
Oh, wow.
And I was so young. I was naive. I was dumb. I thought I was in love. I had been love bombed.
Yes.
Like, I'll make it better. It's okay. I'll take care of you. All of that. A couple of years later, one of his friends came to me several years later and like, he did that on purpose.
Oh, he trapped you.
He tried because he knew my family was moving.
Oh.
And he wanted to keep me.
Oh.
And that was his plan. So unplanned for me.
I get that.
First time. And that was the beginning. And because of the very conservative indoctrination, I thought, I messed up.
Of course.
I did this to myself.
It's your fault.
If I had done things differently, if I had said no more or louder or ran away or whatever, if I had been stronger, if I could have foreseen, then I wouldn't have ended up in this, in this place. And so that was my burden. Like, I made this mistake. I am in this life. And so my mission is to be a good Christian wife, submissive to my husband. And I was 15.
Yeah.
And
how old was he?
17. So not that much older.
But older. And obviously had a plan.
Yeah.
Can we just take a moment here? Let's take a sip of our vitamin drink. Because sometimes when we go back in time, just to do a little parasympathetic nervous system reset,
Yeah.
Oh, that was very difficult for you. That was very stressful. And now that you're a mother and, you met my son, he's 21. I still, his myelin's not even developed yet. When you're 15, you are a child.
Yes.
We forget. I think when I was 15, we thought we we're adults in some way.
Yeah. I thought, I'm so mature. I can do this. You know, I'm a wife now. I'm a mother. And I should have never, ever, ever been allowed to get married at 15.
No.
And I would die on that hill.
Yeah. And, you know, there was no compassion for you. There was no one saying, I'm so sorry. And I want to say it to your inner child. I'm so sorry that happened to you. And you did not deserve to be treated like that. And also to take on all that responsibility at such a young age. And wow, I mean, that's a lot that you had to go through.
And when you're in a situation that starts off with abuse, and that abuse continued.
Of course it did.
It continued our entire marriage, 17 years. And then post-separation through divorce and co-parenting. But when you're in that situation, you're like, oh, it's not that bad. You tell yourself it's not that bad.
Yeah.
If I just be better, if I just work harder, if I just be the best I can be, then he's going to change. And you can pray and hope and, you know.
And it's also a survival trait, kind of people pleasing, you know, like taking that codependency,
yes.
which, I really definitely have. And I'm guessing, well, like you said, here you were from 2 years old in this relationship with a stepfather who did not make you feel wanted, and probably the opposite. I don't know.
And
but
that's how I learned to be a people pleaser, because I had to walk on eggshells, tiptoe around, try not to mess up. And hindsight's 20/20.
Right.
Didn't see it when I was 15. Now I can see I went from a very oppressive, physically abusive household as a child into a very oppressive, physically, mentally, financially, and emotionally abusive marriage as a child.
Yeah.
It was like out of the frying pan into the fire, but they felt the same.
And it feels like home.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we get so confused. Like, and there's part of our psyche that wants to finally make ourselves safe and get that love and get all those needs met. And we keep thinking, like, if I just act this way or that way, I will get those needs met. And it will never come from the poison well. And it is a trauma bond.
Absolutely.
And I kind of want to apologize too for, like, when I joke about a trailer, like, oh, it's just a trailer, so it didn't hurt that bad. And it's like, when you're saying that was
your only home.
That is your only home. And, and frankly, trailers, you know, whatever you want to call them, prefab homes, tiny house, whatever you call it.
No, it was a single wide.
It was a single wide with 8 kids. No.
With 8 kids, yes. But that was not the first place. We never owned a home in 17 years of marriage. He dropped out of high school. Was diagnosed with chronic illness in high school, and then used that as a crutch into drug abuse and alcoholism that ultimately took his life last year at the age of 47.
Whoa. And the alcohol abuse and the drug abuse is what took his life.
Drug overdose. Yeah.
Wow. And I know that so the difference between you and me is my son
just
is
a couple years old age, right?
Oh yeah, well, yeah, I was going to say there's quite a bit of age difference. All I was going to say, because my son, even though we co-parented my son for 1.5 years, at the end of the marriage, she just acted like he's not hers at all. Like, even though she was on the, you know, with the adoption, internationally, she could not present as a co-parent because of international laws. But here in Colorado, she was, you know, doing all the parenting classes. She definitely was. But she was just, anyway, the difference is I don't have to pretend for my son about any good qualities about her. Like, I don't have to lie. I mean, I can say I loved her because I did. And I also always will love her for helping me adopt my son, because I would not have had the courage to go to Nepal if it weren't for her. even though it was an illusion of support in some ways, because I gave her my durable power of attorney, which I do not recommend doing. And I gave it to her when I left for Nepal, and she took it and said, this means I am you and I can do anything in your name. Yeah. And I said, absolutely, I trust you completely. And she did change the deed to our home.
You should have excluded that for, this is not legal advice. I'm not your lawyer, but
right. Well,
your durable power of attorney should be very specific.
Yeah, this is good stuff to talk about. Yeah. Well, and she was a lawyer, right? And she specialized in quote unquote gay and lesbian divorce, which was not a thing back then. So blah, blah, blah. We had to do a partition action. Everything was a mess. Mm-hmm. All right. Don't need to go into my thing. I have shared it before on here. People have heard it. But back to your experience, I mean, I was saying, like, one of the things we talk about on Traumedy is how we cope with these things. But here you are. How old are your kids when before he died? Now, he just recently died. This is
last year.
Mm-hmm. When you went through your divorce, how many years has it been since your divorce?
It has been 12 years since the divorce.
And your kids were how old when that was happening?
My oldest was 14 when we first separated, and my youngest was 1.
Wow. 8 kids, 1 through 14. And I am so curious how you got out at all. How did you have the courage, or how did you get him out of your house?
Ooh.
Is that too much?
No, this is great because a lot of times, narcissistic abuse uses the system to hurt you deeply. And my ex had injured himself doing a stupid stunt, and then fell. He was on crutches and fell out our door and broke his arm. And so he had a boot and a cast, and he was on crutches, and he took his happy little ass to the courthouse and said that I had hurt him and I was a danger to our children, and that he was afraid that I was going to hurt the kids, and was granted an emergency protective order in the state that we lived in Kentucky.
Oh, my.
I was helping my kiddos with their 4-H projects. On his order, I was homeschooling them. There's some backstory I would love to get into in a minute, but we were working on 4-H projects. He had offered to take our daughter to her pediatrician appointment, which he had never done, ever, taken the kids anywhere. And I was like, wow, okay, cool. I'll get to do these art projects. I love crafts. And he came back and said, somebody should be coming shortly and you need to answer the door. I was like, that's cryptic.
What?
And it was the sheriff serving me. And I will never forget the hateful look in his eyes as the sheriff read that protective order and vacated me from my home and made me leave my kids.
Babies and all the little ones.
Except I was like still nursing the baby. And I said, oh my God, you going to wean our son, my youngest baby? And he's like, oh God, I didn't think about that. Let her have him. And so the sheriff called the judge, and the judge is like, okay, fine, whatever. And so I got to take our 4-year-old, who was, we had been in the process of adopting her, but never finished. So he was not legally her parent. And so he didn't have authority to add her to the EPO. And I got to take her and my baby, and I had to leave.
And keep in mind, you're not a lawyer at this point.
Oh, no. I had barely finished. I hadn't even finished 1 semester in college.
So you don't know the system.
Mm-mm.
You're just shocked. You're in shock. You were blindsided completely.
Yeah. I was completely knocked the wind out of me. I didn't know what to do, what end was up. And I called some of our friends, our mutual friends, like in our homeschooling group. And I remember he had gotten to them first. He took my support
That's what they
system
do.
out from underneath me. And one of the homeschooling moms was like, well, you deserved it. And I was like, for what? So I'm crying. I'm calling shelters and nobody can take me.
Let's take a minute. Your family of origin's not supportive at this. I mean,
at that point, and that's a complicated story too, but my mom and stepdad had moved to the area. They were about an hour away. And so I did go there for 2 weeks. That whole situation turned out to be another like traumatic event, but like at the time it was the only place I could go. Where I needed to go in the metro area was the women's shelter, and they're like, you're not from this county, so we can't let you in.
Because you were rural?
Mm-hmm. I was very rural. We were out in the middle of nowhere. I had no money, no bank account, no cell phone. I had a driver's license at least, but I had no resources.
No, you had been.
And we had just moved there. So I didn't really know anybody.
Like the homeschooling group, they're still new to get to know you, and he's poisoned them.
Exactly.
Against you.
Yep. So I am showing up for court for an EPO, and by the grace of God, I was able to get a victim's advocate from the domestic violence shelter who was there with me, and the help of the most amazing attorney at the Legal Aid Society. And those two got me through like the first hump. And it is a long, long uphill battle from there.
And I do want to take a moment. I do believe in a loving higher power who some folks call God. And I do believe that you were supported by God, like you said. And you were able, that shifted things for me too, because my situation was with another female, and she was a lawyer. And have a drink. She was a lawyer. She'd gone to the safe house. And then I went to the safe house, and they said, we can't support you because we can only support one of you. Mm-hmm. And then after about a week, they called me and said, we can see what she's doing. She's being manipulative legally, and we believe you, and we want to support you. And I mean, I cried. I just cried. I was at the Boulder Reservoir with my little toddler, and I was just sitting there crying to just have somebody believe you. Yeah. Because to have that advocate. We were just talking about her in the car and how much it meant to you to have that.
And the first EPO hearing, I didn't have an attorney with me.
What does EPO stand for?
Emergency Protective Order.
Emergency Protective Order, okay.
And so that if you get okay, let me back up a little. When you go and try to file for an emergency protective order, if the court or the judge deems like it's necessary, they'll give you up to 2 weeks to get into court, and then they can either deny it or dismiss it, or they can grant you a protective order that has more power and more stick. The first hearing, I had the victim advocate, and my ex had an attorney, and I had nothing. And he goes, I'm going to give you a week, and you're going to come back here, and you better have an attorney to me.
This is, who's talking?
This is the judge.
The judge, okay.
At the initial EPO hearing. And he said, you better have an attorney. If you don't, we're going through this anyway. And so that gave me a week. And mind you, I have no resources, nothing, not even 2 cents to rub together. And my parents don't have money. They don't have anything to give me or help me with. So I just remember feeling so hopeless. I called a bunch of attorneys. They're like, oh, we already talked to your husband. We can't even talk to you, which is a tactic that abusive people use. They
call a bunch of attorneys?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it conflicts you out from being able to use them because if they've talked to the other party, they can't represent you.
Oh, yeah.
So
he'd used up he made these calls.
Everybody around in our tiny county.
He really did his research.
Yeah. He moved in the shadows in a bad way. But legal aid had a domestic violence and emergency protective order attorney who turned out to be a wonderful person, very understanding, very empathetic. And a week later, which was the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, and also my oldest daughter's birthday.
Oh, and you can't be with her.
Could not talk to them because the order said no contact. We have our hearing, and by this time I was able to get my own EPO because it's like, okay, I can finally do it.
Yeah.
I can finally file because fear was keeping me. No resources, nowhere to go. I had nothing to my name.
And the irony that he forced the issue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he forced it.
Well, what they want to do is make it quick and easy on the court and just grant them both, and you have dueling protective orders, and then, everybody goes their way. I was like, no, I will not agree to that. Because I didn't do anything.
That's right.
I didn't hurt him. He's using this as legal abuse.
Yeah.
And my attorney knew that too. But the question that helped was, the judge, the standard is, are you afraid that she can hurt you and will hurt you in the future? And they may say it a different way. And he was like, no.
Oh, because he's so arrogant.
Yes.
I love how their arrogance bites them in the ass.
Well, it was the key to his being dismissed and mine being granted, which meant I got to be reunited with my kiddos and I got to move back into the trailer because at this point in our lives, he was no longer working. He was on disability. We were barely eking by. We lived in a single wide trailer out in the middle of nowhere, dirt poor. I was like, this is not where I imagined that I would end up with my life.
Yeah.
And it was a 3-bedroom trailer with 10 people in it.
Wow. But it's a lot. Like it's hectic, but also in a weird way, I always had to share a bedroom, and I still don't feel quite comfortable in a room alone at night. It's weird.
When everything's good, it can be cozy and it can be a good place to be. When things are not good and when, you're going through a divorce and separation, the other part of it was he kept calling CPS on me. And so when you have 8 kids in a 3-bedroom trailer, you're looked down upon. You're not seen as a respectable, responsible person. So that's a mark against you.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, knowing now that he has moved on to his beyond. And I'm allowed to dance in my kitchen. I do occasionally because my ex, I just never knew if she was going to do another thing, because there's always just that. I was always looking. I didn't realize it till I saw her obituary, what a relief I felt. And I'm just saying, it's not about that we wish them ill or we're glad that, a child would ever lose their parent, but the relief of not having to worry, like how many times he's doing these things where he's reporting you or trying to threaten your security with your relationship with your children. And I think you are allowed to acknowledge the relief of not having to worry that there would be a threat to your relationship with yourself and your kids and your freedom. I mean, because you could have gone to jail.
Yeah, for sure. And you're always worried that the other shoe is going to drop. There's somebody, something happening behind you, that the anxiety that lives with you or in the pit of your guts doesn't go away.
That's right. Yeah. Especially with these personality types that have to have absolute power over you. That's unless they find, and this is what I've been taught anyway, unless they find another target or supply, as they call it in narcissist abuse, then you're still the target,
That didn't help when he remarried?
It didn't?
No.
He continued.
And my wish always from the time we got together and had our first kiddo until the end of his life was that he would be a good dad, that he would be a loving dad, that he would be present and good to his kids because they deserve that.
Yes.
And so I didn't, at that point, I mean, by the time we were done, I didn't care what he did to me, but he needed to be good for his kids because they deserve to have a good life.
Wow. That says a lot about you too, that you're saying it's about them, even though you do matter. You do know, I want you to know. You matter as well. I get it. You know what I was saying to my ex, and I know I keep relating it to what just to identify with that is I was like, you can talk to me this way, but you can't talk to his mother this way. Like he's hearing what you're saying, and it's not good for him. And it was like, why? And I'm thinking, I look back on that going, but because of my childhood or just whatever, it was like, I didn't take it as personally either. Cause I was like, that's her brain doing something where she would flip a switch and like, everyone hates you and stuff like that. Yeah. But I know I can, jump around with my ADHD, but I wanted to make sure what I was curious about, how long was that the whole period that you didn't have your kids with you, that they probably have some memories of all that, of being left?
Well, the weird thing is that it was kind of fun for them because Dad was there and he was doing things and like present and just like.
So for them it was a change in routine and Dad's showing up and we're okay. Well, that's good. I'm glad that wasn't as traumatizing as it could have been.
For the birthday girl, it kind of was. I mean, she's like, you missed my birthday. I'm like, I didn't mean to. I didn't want to.
Yeah.
And so first 2 weeks, I didn't have them, and then began the process of, do we put in like a legal separation? Do we file for divorce? Can we, because of the timing, legal timing requirements, you have to wait so many days, you can't cohabitate and you can't be pregnant. Thankfully I wasn't pregnant again. And even then I remember how broken and scared and lost I was. I was like, if he would just promise to be good to me and not do this. Like that was this blatant lie that I had hurt him, that cut deep. And because I had never in my life tried to hurt anybody. And like, so my stupid self was like, if I could just get him to promise, but every promise that he'd ever made, he'd broken. So I don't know why I thought that.
You wanted it to work out. You didn't want a quote unquote broken home, or you wanted it to work. And we believe, like we project our own selves onto them and like, well, I would never do that, or I would do this. I would promise and I would keep my promise and I would, I want to make it work, but we don't. We can't imagine the way their brains work.
Right.
It's so different.
Yeah.
But you were still hoping and you were still thinking, maybe he'll.
Luckily, that did not last long.
Okay. I was going to say, at some point, well, after how many times Child Protective Services come to your house, and
it was a monthly occurrence. Wow. It was basically him, his sister, his mother, everybody he knew was calling and making anonymous tips, and they have to investigate. And I kept getting, this. It was terrifying. I'm like, what are we doing here? Complaints about, too many kids in the same room and the conditions that we're in. And I mean, it took I think it took 6 to 9 months to get a temporary support order. So I'm basically relying on the generosity of nonprofits and donations and our new church family who barely knew us to help us out with like food and utilities and getting, and like the domestic violence shelter had a program where they could pay your deposit so you could get the power in your name so your ex couldn't turn it off.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
So like all these things you don't think about. And then you have to immediately go into, I have to do all these things. So you don't really get to dwell in the moment as much, which is kind of good.
Yeah, this is a good time to pack your schedule. But yeah, when you're busy, it does help in a weird way, because otherwise you can imagine I always look at it like the Matrix or something, where the dominoes fell in my reality and it was like, who have I been spending the last, whatever, in my case, you're 17, 11 years. And the safe house told me, you've been with a sociopath for 11 years. And I'm like, no. Yeah. No, I haven't. Those are serial killers.
Well, denial is how our brains continue to work.
Oh.
Right? So like we can't think that we're in this bad relationship. Like,
no.
I never ended up in the hospital.
Yeah.
I didn't have broken bones. But I didn't have anything really.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have a sense of self. I wasn't allowed to continue my education. I barely graduated high school, where I had been top of my class and had, at one point I had to jump out a window to go to school.
Because you were 15 and your husband was forbidding you from going.
Yeah. Yep.
And you were top of your class.
Not when I graduated.
I can't wait to hear about when you started going to law school. But I don't want to jump ahead, but I just am so impressed with the fact, because last night I was saying, like, how did you do this? And you go, I went to law school. And I can't even imagine it. But
I joke it's by spite, because people did not believe in me. And I had to believe in myself.
Yeah.
I had to prove to myself that the lies that were told about me, that I was no more than a trailer trash breeder, weren't true.
He would say things like that to you?
Community members would say that to me. I'm going to take a minute. He would say really ugly things to me. Yeah. Because the whole point is to break your spirit.
Yeah, that's one of, when you listed all those abuses, one of the ones the Safe House taught me was spiritual abuse. And it's like your relationship, even with your own loving God or higher power, that you start doubting everything.
It's used as a weapon against you to keep you unsettled or in submission or unsure of yourself. And that's absolutely what he did. He even went to counseling with our pastor to try to fix himself, and came back and said, you're the problem. You're the problem. The pastor told me so. Which creates like this gap or of like, this is not a trustworthy person, but he wasn't a reliable source either.
Exactly. And alienating you from any kind of sense of resource or strength or anyone that might be able to. And so something in you turned inward and was like, I know myself.
Yeah.
Like the spell. What helped break the spell? Do you know, was it because of those that first overt lie of you pushing him out the door or whatever he said, or was it something else?
I don't know what it was. I mean, when you're in an abusive relationship, generally speaking, there are multiple attempts to get away. And I had tried, but I don't know why I always went back. I think it's like 7 is the average number of attempts to escape an abusive relationship. And then I saw this, I was at the library, and I'm looking up domestic violence and abuse. And I saw this wheel of power and control. And I printed it out. I had 10 cents. I printed it out and I look at it and I like, okay, I'm going to highlight all the ones that match where I'm at. And I'm going to be honest with myself. And I highlighted the hell out of that paper. And I'm like, this cannot happen. This is not who I am. This is not where I expected to be or wanted to be. And I kept thinking, it's going to get better. It's going to get better. And it never got better. And this was like the end of that. And so I think that just seeing that visual and doing that exercise and being honest with myself and not saying, it's not that bad. I don't have a black eye. I don't have broken bones. You know, the times he tried to choke me out, it was fine. It was, you know, like that kind of stuff. Like, I'm not going to lie to myself anymore to protect him, because that's what you do. You start trying to cover up for all of their stuff.
And then the shame that also comes up in you that you're with someone that's treating you like that. And this happened when you were at the library, you were still with him? Or this was after? That's after he's gone.
After he was gone. And
from the protective order.
Yes.
The Safe House too, did they help with some of that? I know when I went, it was helpful to me to see some of the cycles of abuse and things like that.
I was able to have some counseling sessions with the domestic violence victims advocate, but because I wasn't in the Safe House, I couldn't do any of like programs. So I had the victims advocate and I mean, it got me through. It would have been nice to have more support, but
your natural inclination to do research, going to the library, and this is here, you know, because you're doing that kind of work now, that makes you feel good to empower people with information.
Yeah, absolutely.
Information is empowerment.
And I have always been a lifelong learner and trying to know more and be better. So it's hard to really grow and be better when you're shackled in an abusive relationship. And I was like, I'm going to go back to school, because I know that education is a key to open a door. Okay. And I went all around our tiny, tiny town applying for jobs. So I had not been allowed to have a job. I had not been allowed to finish my education and go to college. I hadn't been allowed to have birth control.
Oh my.
And I'm like, okay, first thing, well, I don't need birth control because I'm not being with anybody, but I'm going to go to school. I'm going to get a job. Nobody would hire me. I couldn't get a job. I'm like, I applied to wash tractors. I applied to sort car parts. I applied to like all the restaurants, gas stations, the Walmart wouldn't even hire me. I'm like, do you guys see?
What's up? Because you didn't have work experience or just?
Yeah, I don't know. No, I didn't get any callbacks.
That's wild.
And I'm like, I know that I am fairly intelligent. My past, might give people the wrong idea, but because of that stigma of having 8 kids, and this part I didn't tell you, we ended up in that county because we had been living somewhere else up north, and my ex had decided that we were going to join a Mennonite church. And this is new information for you because I didn't tell you about this. So we ended up in Tennessee in a Mennonite church.
And what's the belief of the Mennonites? I mean,
it's a lot to go into.
Okay,
but like, let me tell you about lifestyle because
that's what I wanted to know. Like, what is? Yeah.
So, you kind of know Amish, like black buggy,
right?
Homemade clothes, bakeries, right? Maybe.
Yes.
Farming.
Yes.
Okay, so Mennonite is a kind of a sister to that. They were once together and then they separated a while ago. And so we were allowed to have cars and some electric, like we have electric in the house, but not a lot of appliances. And we still had to wear the cape dress and the head covering, like extreme.
And he just decided this.
He decided it. I had just had my daughter, and this was back in 2007. Just had my daughter 10 days before he's like, we're moving to Tennessee.
With a brand new baby.
Yeah.
He just announced it.
Yep.
So
we're going. And I'm like, what do you do? You don't have anything. You don't have any choices. Like in my mind, I don't have any choices.
Well, you don't have agency. You don't have a credit card. You don't have
nothing. Yeah. I'm just like, okay, we're going, I guess. Like, so I wasn't as liberated as I am now. So we ended up moving to Tennessee from Chicago, and actually joined the Mennonite church, where I took care of the kids, had 2 more babies, wore the cape dress and the head covering, and kept a farm.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're amazing. You're amazing.
This whole time, he's still on drugs. He's still battling addiction, but he's like functioning addict. It's like he could pretend sometimes.
He doesn't work.
He was working a little bit then.
Okay.
At the end, he didn't. So we're talking between 2006 and 2007 and 2012 when the EPO happened.
Okay.
So he took up construction, because that's what they did. They built barns, and we joined the Mennonite church, and I was like, I love God. I'm spiritual. I'm trying to be a good submissive wife. I love the mountains. I love, doing things with my hands, but it wasn't like where I was meant to be.
Yeah.
I never felt like connected, or at home. It was hard. It was hard. And the sad thing is, there were some really beautiful people there.
Of course. I
really
believe that.
Beautiful people there.
Nothing to negate that. Yeah. But it's not you.
Right. So the drug abuse starts to escalate. And we ended up moving, and ended up like his MO was to run away from the mess he makes, and that's why we moved so much.
Oh, I see.
And we ended up moving to a different Mennonite church. That was a tiny bit more modern, and then getting shunned.
What is that? When it's like, is this an official?
It is an official decree by the church saying, you are separated from us. We will not have communion with you. You are not part of our flock or church. And basically they're saying, you are no longer a Christian, so you're not even going to go to heaven, so you could just forget it until you make amends with us and we say it's okay.
Is this from his drug use?
That and all the mess that he made through it.
But you got officially shunned. Officially
shunned from the Mennonite church. And shortly after that is when things kind of fell out and the EPO happens. So, like I said, first thing, I was like, I'm going to get an education. I'm going to go to college. Oh my gosh. Okay, I don't know what to do. I go to the Adult Learning Center. I take the entrance, like the test that tells them if you can even go to college, right? They see where you are. And I aced that test, and I was like, yes. And they're like, no, because you did so well in the test, we can't help you. We can only help people who are like half, like 50% or lower.
Oh, like, no. What?
Yes.
You're too smart to get assistance?
Yeah. What? If I had known that, I would have bombed it.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Whatever. So I went to the community college, and my youngest was crawling over my lab, and I did my classes online at the library. Until one of the beautiful people that I'm going to shout out to Jerry and Laverne, because you guys saved me.
Thank you, Jerry.
They're like, oh, we love your kids and we love you and we want you to do well. And they let me go to their house and use their computer with my kiddos. And because I had 2 that were not in school yet. And I put all the kids in public school.
Oh, I'm getting kind of goosebumps.
Yeah.
I'm
It's
so
like, this is
I'm
the
so happy
start.
for you. And when you started talking about getting educated, I can feel the strength in your voice too. It's like coming into your own, your
Yeah.
stuff. You got that first hit of dopamine, like you ace this. You're like, oh, I'm not an idiot that I've been told I was an idiot for so
yeah.
long. And I'm capable. I'm too capable to even get assistance. And then you find this couple who somehow they just say, we want to help. We want to.
Yeah, they
give
wanted
you
to
a-
help me. They had kids but no grandkids. They had, loved on my kids at church, and they're like, "Come to our house. We're both at work. You can use, you have the space. You can use our computer and everything." Because I had been working at the library, free computers, and they asked me to please kindly leave because my baby would cry if we were there too long. So
Okay.
I would get in there and I would do my math as fast as possible because it had to be done online. And then I would go to the 24-hour McDonald's late at night after everybody was asleep and hook up to their Wi-Fi
Oh,
and try to
brilliant.
do my exams as fast as I could so I could get back, because we were out in the middle of nowhere. We didn't have access to satellite or anything. So
I love your determination.
I had to be creative.
Yes, and where there's a will, there's a way. There really is. You are determined,
Yep.
and you figured it out.
And I made the dean's list every semester at the community college, which is awesome. But then I transferred to the university and I made the president's list
Wow.
and I had like accolades and student, like department student of the year and everything. And I'm like, this is great. This is great. But I was like, what am I going to do? It's like planning. I have to plan. I'm type A. I got to know where I'm going. I'm going to make other plans. And so I decided, nobody put me up to this, I am going to do the hardest thing that I know there is, and that is go to law school.
Wow.
And nobody or nothing is going to stop me except myself, but I'm going to do this. This is my goal. And I reverse engineered the steps. And I'm like, I knew starting out at community college was not like ideal, but
and this
it was
is with
free.
8 kids.
Yeah.
8 children
Yes.
that are just not even quite in school. Like you've got all the way from high school down to toddler.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
And I love it. I love that you chose a challenge. You're like, you actually need that level of challenge, it sounds like.
Yes.
To give you that drive.
Well, in high school, I had been like on a health sciences track, and I was like, I'm going to be a doctor. Then, freshman, sophomore, and then I got, had a baby, got married, all that kind of stuff kind of derailed that. And because my ex had chronic illness and I had taken care of him, I was like, there is no way that I want to go into that caregiving role because it was so traumatic for me.
You were nurtured out.
Yes.
You were nurtured out in that way. You've been a caregiver for all these kids and this husband and
The kids were fine. It was
but
the
I just
other-
mean, yeah, but mainly
Yeah.
it was him, huh? The chronic illness. Okay.
because he used that every holiday, every
They do. Yeah,
thing.
my ex had a chronic illness as well. And every time I plan something,
every
I can't.
vacation, every Christmas, you're in the hospital.
Ugh.
Yeah. So I was like, there's no way. So the hardest thing was to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
And also I thought it would come with that financial stability that we needed. So we finally got support, like child support, a little bit of alimony. And so I had like $1,200 to live off of with 8 kids. And we lived in a trailer. I took my classes online as much as I could, stacked them when I had to go on campus. I stacked them all in one day. So I'd only be gone one day. So I'd only pay for a sitter for one day because it's expensive.
Yes, it is.
And I was like, I'm going to go to law school. I don't know where I'm going to go to law school. I applied to 5 law schools. I got into every single one except for the top one where I was waitlisted, which is still an accomplishment.
Yes.
And
I'm
ended
clapping.
up, thank you. I ended up getting a full ride scholarship to law school.
That's incredible.
And it was just the best feeling of accomplishment just to get there. But then I had to get through law school, which is hard. It is a very hard track to be on. And it's hard when you don't have responsibilities. But remember this entire time, I'm battling my ex in court and through co-parenting and having CPS called on me. And we had other things happen. I don't think we have time for today.
Okay.
But it was so amazingly rewarding to finally graduate from law school in 2020. 7 years of school, 7 years of sacrifice and hard work. And I did it. And I was like, I can't even believe I had the opportunity, because there were so many places, so many decisions I had to make, places where I could have fallen off and fallen into despair, places I could have given up, places that I had to push through and say, I'm staying on this course, and it is the true right course for me. And it worked out.
It worked out. Oh, it worked out in a big way. And that you reconnecting with who you are, super capable and determined and loving. You know, I can feel your energy. You're such a loving person. For you to get, mischaracterized like that is just so cruel and antithetical to who you are.
Yeah.
And for you to come through all of that.
I mean,
I just hope people listening hear this, you can do anything you put your mind to in that way.
You really can. And it everything that you want is on the other side of fear, right? We've heard that before. I was afraid. I was terrified. We talk about traumedy. My ex's attorney, he went through a couple of them, and they were so mean to me in court. They were so mean to me. They called me every name in the book, and they tried to paint me out as this just inadequate, not even human type person, just disgusting. And I was back in that small town and had graduated. I'd moved on. It's back by necessity, not because I wanted to. There's too much history and drama there that I didn't want to be. And I saw him in the Walmart, the one that wouldn't hire me. And he says, I hear you're graduating law school now. This guy who had dragged me through the dirt. You should come work for me. I laughed so hard and walked away. That was the most rewarding thing, because I was like, I have options. I have power. Y'all didn't believe that I could be an attorney. You didn't think I had the brains or the wherewithal to do anything. The judge didn't believe in me. And here I am. And you're saying I should come work. Ha!
I love it. I love that you got the last word and the last laugh.
Yeah. I didn't even address it. And I just walked away. I was like, no.
Oh, this is a perfect place to have closure. If you feel like you've had a chance to share what you want to share, that was perfect. I love the arc of your story, and I'm sorry you had to go through all that hell to realize, what a wonderful person you are. And I do know that there's something about having gone through, and I mean, there's no other word, but I don't know. I don't believe in actual hell. I think hell is here on earth sometimes, right? But I'm just saying, sometimes that contrast every day, I'm sure there's got to be a sense of gratitude and lightness. And gosh, I mean, when you go back, time traveling back there, it's like, whoa, I can't even believe I endured that, It
still lives somewhat in my body. I can get a little triggered sometimes. We've talked about this, and I'm like, oh, that it still feels like icky.
There's some residue.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
residue. Well, and yeah, our past, I guess, is always there to some degree. And I am a big advocate of trauma therapy. And I don't know if you've done EMDR, brain spotting, or psychedelic trauma therapy, which I am a proponent of all three. But it does help kind of sometimes for me anyway, because I can be a little reactive. Like even today, I had a little PTSD moment when I fell down here in my office because it was like a blindsided. I didn't know how I did that, but it brought up that feeling of being blindsided.
Yeah.
And I got shaky, and I hate to admit it, but I mean, I guess I shouldn't hate to admit it. My son is 21, but I don't want to parentify my son. But I was like, I need a hug. I told him I'm having a little PTSD thing. So it was nice of him. I mean, I told him I'm sorry I had to ask for that because I'm supposed to be the mom, but
You're human and you're allowed to ask for comfort.
Yeah. And I guess so, I mean, I mean, it is what it is. We are the only two people here, and my dog was hiding under the couch.
Oh, poor.
It scared him because this thing went crashing down anyway. But that contrast, I mean, even though we still have that residue, but isn't there just something beautiful about waking up every day?
Yeah.
That's so different.
I'm so grateful for my life.
Gratitude.
I am so grateful that my kids are seeing the other side of that trauma and seeing their mom as like a different, healing, powerful person. And
how good is that for them to see you accomplish all these things?
It's amazing because you talked about like doing counseling and therapy, and I'm like, I'm in therapy now still. And like, I have to learn how to love versions of me that I didn't like because I didn't like the outcome. But now I'm like, we're in a good place. We're in a loving place. We're in a safe place. And we did that. All the versions of me together did that. And I can show my kids, like, no matter what you get into, you have power within yourself to change the story, to direct the ending of your story or the new beginning.
What a wonderful message for them to not only hear, but to witness. I mean, they believe it. They've seen it. They believe it. I'm so grateful for you for sharing this story. Thank you for taking the chance with me as a goofy comedian, like just coming into my home and bearing your soul. And thank you so much. I know somebody listening is going to be helped by this. Is there anything you want people to know?
I do want to say, though, that if you've been through this and you have a heart for pregnant teenagers, minors getting married, domestic violence victims and survivors, please be an advocate. Please do everything in your power to protect our children. One of the great organizations that I had a tiny chance to work with is Tahirih, and they are helping to try to get legislation in the states that raises the marriage age and hopefully to get it out of the minors. We should never be allowing minors to get married.
Yes.
I was 15 in North Carolina. They just did a campaign a couple of years ago and tried to get that raised, and they were able to get a little bit of traction, get it up a little bit. But it's not a good idea. You asked me about arranged marriages. I don't know if this is going to be part of it, but a lot of instances of minor marriages are arranged between a much older man and a young girl.
Who can't give consent.
No, their parents consent for them. That is not good parenting. It did not work out for me.
Yeah.
And we should not be a first world country that marries our babies and our children off. Protect your kiddos. Protect our country's future.
So I'm going to put a link in the show notes so people can click on it to this
Tahirih.
Yeah. So then there might be a way for you to take action or
Yeah.
call a representative and say, please support this,
Yes.
you know. So yeah, be active. And I love what you said. Yeah. If you can, advocate for teens and anyone in those situations. And again, a shout out to victim advocates.
Yes.
I just did a show here for the Boulder County Sheriff's volunteers, and there were a lot of victim advocates there, and we were so grateful for them for volunteering to do this service that can shift energy, you know, just to have a witness or somebody that believes in you.
Just to have someone to stand between you and your aggressor, to
Yeah.
give you a little bit of space and safety.
Safety.
It means a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to be a really special, wonderful kind of person to be able to do that. And I'm just so grateful for the one that helped me.
Yeah.
You're a guardian angel.
And, you know, remember, no matter what, keep laughing. You know,
Yeah.
even though there's nothing funny right on the nose of it, just try to keep finding humor. I'm sure your kids, my son always kept me laughing. They're just funny by nature.
Yes.
And so if there's any way to resource with a little bit of humor along the way, and I love that, again, that you got that last laugh. I love the full circle of the whole thing. Amy, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your time here in Boulder, Colorado. I'm so glad I got to meet you. I hope to talk to you again sometime.
Thank you, Nancy. It has been a pleasure. I'm so glad you gave me a microphone and the opportunity to share my story.
I hope to read your memoir someday.
I hope to write it one day.
I
Yeah.
feel it. It's coming. All right. Thanks, everybody. Keep laughing.
Thank you.
I want to thank my guest, Amy Hips. And look in the show notes for any links. Please reach out to me if you have any questions or if you'd like to be a guest on Traumedy. And again, I want to thank our mascot, Mushu. And I want to thank my son, Nathaniel Norton, for being a great son. He's been an easy person to parent. And now he's 21, going to school full time, working full time, really growing up and showing up. And I want to thank him for the music loop. I want to thank you, the listener, for being on this co-healing journey. Thank you. And remember, no matter what, keep laughing.